Grover Norquist, we're back. We have with us, as a special segment today, an interview with Congressman Ember of the great state of Minnesota. I've known the congressman since he ran for governor. And Congressman, give us a sense, how'd you get into politics to start with? Tell us a little bit about running for governor, and then we're going to talk about the here and now and your job as a whip. So the background, governor race, decide to get into politics.
Yeah, I think it all starts with the people who raise you and mentor you as a child and a young person. I didn't have a plan to go into politics, but I was raised to understand that to those who are given much, you need to give back, right? And you always have an obligation to leave things not just as good as you found them, but better than you found them. And for me, Grover, it started because my wife, Jackie, and I bought a place called the Old Shady Beach Resort Hotel on about 2 acres of land above a lake called Lake Sarah, which is about 50 miles west of downtown Minneapolis. It was still very rural. I could hunt across the street in the front yard, and I could fish in the backyard. That's why we moved there. And guess what? We started a family. And we were probably 1 or 2 children into it when all of a sudden, I lived on a dirt road. I get a notice that I'm going to be assessed $15,000 for that property. I owned one across the road too. I was going to get hit for 15 on that one. Why? Because they were going to make me pay for a sewer I didn't need and I didn't want. I had plenty of acreage, but this is the government coming in and saying, hey, we're doing something good for you. You got to pay for it. Well, keep in mind, Jackie and I are young. We're just starting out. $30,000 on our bill is a major impact. So I started going to city council meetings. I started paying attention and I got activated. And I ended up having to eat that, but I saw how it worked as we went forward, right? How local government actually could be a service to the residents that it was supposed to be serving as opposed to an obstacle. And then there came a day when there was a state representative who literally was a neighbor of mine who announced he was retiring. And it was like my wife, who back then said, maybe you should do that. I think I was all of 38 or something, 39 years old. Maybe you should do that. And I said, why in God's name would I do this when I'm running a business? We're going into our peak earning years and we're trying to raise 7 kids. My wife's response, you will love, Grover, was, aren't you the one that says that if you're not willing to do something about it, you should keep your mouth shut? So she basically guilted me into running for a Minnesota State House seat, which I won. And then I served there for 3 terms. And literally what happened was I needed to get out. Jackie and I had decided our public service was done. We could come back to it later in life if that's what we wanted to do. But it was time to get back to raising the family and running the business. So what was our solution to do that? Oh, you should run for governor. My wife, in July of 2009, Jackie says to me literally on a Sunday night, why don't you run? What's the worst thing that can happen? You'll definitely raise the intensity of the discussion. You do it for 5-6 weeks, fall flat on your face, and we can get back to raising the family and running the business. Well, funny thing happened. It went for a year and a half. We were ultimately outspent by roughly 30 million to 6.
Wow.
And we went into a recount. There were 2.1 million votes cast. And at the end of I pulled the plug on December 7th of whatever year that was, 2009. And literally it was 8,100 votes out of 2.1 million. Keep in mind, that was right on the heels of the Al Franken, Norm Coleman debacle. And really, despite the problems that I saw, like stacks of ballots in Minneapolis with just my opponent's name checked, it didn't make much sense because I saw what they did to Norm Coleman over a 5-month stretch. So it was like, nope, we got to be done with this. We pulled the plug and I went off and did radio for the next year and a half, 2 years. I was done. People were trying to get me to jump back into the next governor's race. It's like, no, we've had enough. And then my friend, Michelle Bachmann, my predecessor, announces in the middle of the night one night that she is not going to seek re-election. My phone blows up because I won the district. Frankly, if you take out Minneapolis and St. Paul in the 2010 gubernatorial race, we won the rest of the state. And I'm just talking city limits of Minneapolis and St. Paul. We won the rest of the state by 6 points, Grover. So
yeah.
I was getting calls about, you need to consider running for this. And I sat down with Jackie, because we'd been through this wicked experience. I just said, you know what? God doesn't bring you all this far to drop you on your head and leave you. Maybe all of that was about this. And I can tell you today, about a decade later, I have no regrets. It was the right thing to do. I'm very proud of the service that we've given to Minnesota and that we continue to, and frankly, very humbled that I've been allowed to do this.
Okay. Well, there are more than 218 Republicans in Congress. You've been elected whip. Could you explain to our audience, what exactly does the whip do, and does it have anything to do with hitting people with something?
I think it probably could. I mean, I think there's a show out there that the disgraced Kevin Spacey played the whip, and there's involved death, as a matter of fact. Ours, look, for anybody, and by the way, a lot of people our age really don't know what all these different jobs do, but they're too embarrassed to ask because they feel like they're supposed to know. I'm here to tell you, no, you're not expected to know this. I think you should know who your representative is, but should you know the difference between the speaker, the majority leader, the whip? No. The speaker is responsible for everything on campus, literally responsible for the safety and security of this place, the landscaping, all the people that are employed here. He's also responsible for our agenda. He's responsible for articulating that agenda. And he's the one that makes the final call after everybody weighs in. Steve Scalise is our majority whip. What does he do? He's got a great job, Grover. He essentially builds the calendar so members know when they're going to be here and when they're not going to be here. And then he is responsible for scheduling things for the floor. So his job is working directly with our chairs of the different committees to determine when something is ready to come to the floor. And then there's the third guy. I got the best job of everybody because my job is to be the voice of the membership to the speaker and the majority leader, what they can do, what they can't do, what they will do, what they won't do, because I have to get it passed across the House floor, my team and I. And I'll tell you, I've only given members 2 rules because they thought with my very aggressive personality that I was going to be the second coming of a guy named Tom DeLay, who they called the Hammer. The problem is I would have loved to have been here and lived during the Tom DeLay days because he had tools that I don't. Back then, he could walk into a member's office and say, hey, that vote tomorrow, if you're not with us, that chairmanship you want, you can kiss that goodbye, or that project that you want funded, you can say goodbye to that. I don't have that tool because we have 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, entertainment-driven soundbite news coverage. We've got social media where we've got younger members, younger than you and me, who know how to use this stuff extremely well. So if I were to try and play that kind of hardball tactic with them, you know what they do, Grover? They go out on social media. I'm standing up for you, the man, the establishment is coming after me. And then they go on to these soundbite entertainment news networks and elevate it more. And then they just go and raise money. It's a reality of today. So my rules are this. 2 rules for every member. 1, you take care of your people at home first. No one in Washington, D.C. voted to put you here. Those are the people that you need to care about the most. You take care of them. 2nd, you take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be around here long. Okay. If you can do those 2 things, then we can work with you and we can help you be part of a team to get big things done. And it's worked.
Okay. Well, you successfully passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, which made the original Trump Republican tax cut from 2017 permanent out into infinity, which is amazing. It's often said, gee, not everyone in the country fully understands its benefits, what's in there. What is your elevator explanation to a voter as to why they should really be as excited as you and I are about what this will do to strengthen the economy and create jobs?
Well, it's a whole lot more than just the tax policy, but there's a reason why the big, beautiful bill, nobody understands what that means. So there's a reason why Republicans have been calling it the Working Families Tax Cut Act. Why? It is literally the largest tax cut in America's history. Literally, Minnesotans in my home state, hear this, Minnesotans would have seen a almost 20% tax hike had this bill not passed, Grover. 2026, this is going to take effect in a little less than a month now, is shaping up to be the largest tax refund season ever, thanks to our pro-worker tax provisions like a bigger child tax credit, a larger standard deduction, no tax on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security. Tax refunds, Grover, next spring could reach $1,000. I'm sorry, next year could reach $1,000. That's huge. Plus, you gotta recognize we delivered on all of these other things that President Trump is misselling: the border security funding. We repealed Biden's Green New Scam stuff, and the list goes on and on. As this hits in January, and as we proceed into 2026, I think Americans are going to see very clearly how good this Working Families Tax Cut Act is for all Americans.
Yeah, I share your view. I'm particularly excited about one proposal, something the president wanted to do. This is future, not what you just accomplished for the future. But the president wanted to do this back in 2019 and wasn't able to do it. But the Treasury Secretary supports it, and that is to using a rulemaking in Treasury, so it's not another law, that says when you tax capital gains, you sell a home, you sell your small business, your hotel, your farm, stocks you own, that instead of paying taxes on the entire capital gains, 20% of that gain is inflation, thanks to the last several years. And if you bought your house before Carter was president, that's another 25%. And then every year, 2 or 3. So it's a huge amount that would be exempt from taxation. And so it cut the capital gains tax probably more than in half for anything that's been held for any period of time on your house, on your stocks, on your business. And the realtors think it would create more house openings as older people sell houses that they were scared to do so because of the capital gains tax, now less so, and make it more available to younger people who need 4 rooms and houses for 4 bedrooms.
Well, I totally agree, Grover. I mean, but let's be clear. I'm not a fan of capital gains policy anyway, but it's something that we have. Why should the government get your base, regardless of what the government has done to screw our economy and inflate our currency? So they're screwing us on both ends, right?
Yes.
That's why this is not just it's really morally right, because if you accept capital gains taxes in the first place, which I've made it clear I'm not a fan of these, I think it's wrong to be taxing success. I think you want to incent more success rather than put a wet blanket on it, which I think you've just described. The last 30 years, people are worried about selling things. Every time you get a new administration, it's like, ooh, I better unload all of this while capital gains are still at this. Oh, I better hold on to it while they're doing this with capital gains. Great. Why don't we open up the marketplace, period? But housing, great place to start.
Well, the good news is what they're looking to do at Treasury is for everybody, not just housing. If you only did housing, you'd end up like Europe. Everyone has a Taj Mahal and nobody has a factory. So we don't want to be directing capital in one direction rather than to...
Don't leave my trailer out.
Yes. Oh, no, trailers are in too. All that good stuff. The Democrats in the Senate and soon in the House, I guess, all voted to continue the bailout of the failures of Obamacare without any reform at all. And we're now reading, and it's gotten a fair amount of press out of Minnesota, examples of significant fraud in Obamacare. And the Democrat position is, let's raise taxes, let's keep taxes high, to put more money into the insurance companies, to pay for, to hide the fact that your healthcare costs are going up and up and up, and to say we don't need to fix the fraud. What is happening as you look at the fraud that you're closer to? It's got to be in the Minnesota papers more often than the national papers. What happened there? How do we fix it? And how much money can we save?
Well, first, there's 2 different issues, and I hope you'll forgive me. I'm never using the former president's name ever again, because people don't understand. This is the Affordable Care Act that was passed by Democrats only 15 years ago. And they promised when they passed it, over Republicans' objections, you can keep your doctor, you'll have more choices, and this is going to lower your premiums. They're 0 for 3, Grover. This has completely broken the healthcare system. It should have been called the Unaffordable Care Act. And who are the co-conspirators with Democrats on doing this? The health insurance industry. Let's be clear that while Americans have been finding it harder and harder to pay for healthcare insurance in order to get access to the greatest healthcare in the world, these healthcare insureds have become fat, happy, and extraordinarily wealthy. There's a reason why America's getting a little pissed off. And people need to start pointing, this is what Democrats and the big health insurers did. So you want to fix it? You don't fix it by continuing to throw money at the big insurers that are screwing it. I love my friend Jamie Comer, chairman from Kentucky of the Oversight Committee. He's going to start calling in these health insurance executives and going after them. He's going to start going after them about how they have been benefiting on the backs of Americans while Americans have less choices, are not able to keep the health care they already had, and their premiums are extraordinary. I get you. Members of Congress are on this stupid law, right? Jackie and I got our proposed increase the other day. I'm going to be paying close to $2,500 a month for health care. I got news for everybody listening. I can't. I'm not going to. So we're in the same boat, and it's high time that we stop trying to play politics and start talking about what the real problem is. The other thing that we're going to attack, we should be attacking drug prices, right? It's a double thing that Republicans can do to actually make healthcare more affordable. But until we start recognizing that the Affordable Care Act is exactly what broke the marketplace, and look at this. What do they want to do? They want to throw these enhanced premium subsidies, which go directly to these big, fat, and happy health insurers. They want to do that because they say this is going to save us. Wait a second. 300 million Americans on average are we have received notice that our increase is going to be about 20% or more for our health insurance premium. You realize those enhanced tax credits only apply to 7% of our population. More importantly, even if we did this, it would only impact about 4% of that 20% increase. The Democrats don't want to solve this problem. Yeah. Democrats want to keep this as their issue for the future. And if Republicans get smart and start going after the people that are benefiting off of this crooked program and start to fix a marketplace where people can once again have choices and transparency and competition, you know what? We can solve this problem, Grover.
Congressman, you mentioned that the insurance companies didn't fight Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. They did fight Clinton Care. And so the Obama people were smarter, and rather than fight the insurance companies, they took the approach that the British socialists did. When it was pointed out to the British socialists after World War II, they wanted to have the government take over healthcare. And people said to the socialists, so how are you going to do this? The doctors will fight you. And they said, no, they won't. We will stuff their mouths with gold. And that is what Obama did, Obama did with the insurance people. He gave them so much money, they shut up about the damage that it was going to do to Americans who need health care and health insurance because they were too busy counting the gold.
I would argue you're dead on right, but this is a hang me last strategy.
Yep. Oh, no, it's not a good strategy. It's just what they did.
But what he did was I would argue he let them write it.
Yeah. Well, and we now know that GAO has a report, the Government Accounting Office has a report, that they found at least 68,000 dead people getting these benefits, and they set up 20 fraudulent requests to join, and all were accepted. So it doesn't look like the government was doing anything to fight fraud there, and one hopes that that is part of what are the steps that Congress can do to work with the administration to take some of the fraud down to save more money?
Well, there are several. It's making sure that Oz is showing you right now with the Medicaid fraud in Minnesota, which I want to talk about a bigger issue, but just on that one alone, you've got some reports that Medicaid daycare and other related programs literally went from, what, 3 million back in 2017 to now $400 million. I mean, but the bigger, and what Oz is requiring is now, he's told Tim Walz, our incompetent, self-admitted lying governor, he has told him that you have to give us weekly reports so we know where the money is at, who it's going to, and that it's actually going where it's supposed to and being used for what it's supposed to be. I mean, you shouldn't have to do this, but literally this is about, the teacher saying, all right, you're going to show me how you did your work because I don't trust you because you haven't been doing your work. Yeah. And we've been seeing these results. But here's the bigger problem. In my state, it's primarily Somali-generated fraud. But my state's not the only one. Maine's got similar stuff. Florida's got stuff. Illinois' got stuff. I would say this is a bigger part of a problem because it's not about being a Somali. It's about being a criminal. Russian criminals are involved in this. Other criminals from different countries are involved in this. And why, Grover? It's because they look at the United States of America and they say, oh, look at these dumbass people who want to do all this stuff for everybody. We can just go and rip the snot out of their programs. They are rife for the taking. This is literally a criminal opportunity that because of our generosity, we have created, and now we are responsible for, and we need to clean it up. And the only guy who's ever been very direct about it is Donald J. Trump, quite frankly. And the way he does it offends a lot of people, but somebody's got to talk about it. And thank God that he has. It's at least with my state. And you said, by the way, I'm sure you read about it in your papers more than that. No, I don't. I've been trying to sound the alarm on the Somali fraud and the Tim Walz and Keith Ellison and others, Ilhan Omar, their complicity in this fraud, our suspicions for 3 years. No one would report it. No one. The acting U.S. attorney last summer did the first interview that I saw on a local TV station. He said it's like $1 billion and growing. He said the amount of fraud in the Walz administration would take your breath away. And guess what? I thought, all right, finally they're going to start covering it. Nothing. It wasn't until Donald Trump, 2 weeks ago, I think today at night, did one of his, late night tweets or whatever you call them, and called it out, that all of a sudden it became a very unfortunate but real national story. And now you're finding out it's not just the Feeding Our Future, largest pandemic for the country, 250 million. It's Medicaid housing fraud. It's Medicaid autism, healthcare fraud. And this thing is enormous. So
there is so much work to be done on that front. Thank you for your leadership, both on getting the tax bill passed and opening this up as we fight overspending for fraud, which is not a necessary. It's not in the Constitution listed that you can spend money on fraud. We need to talk to them about that. But Congressman Ember, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being whip. And, I'm sorry. I do have one last thought before we go. We got a moment. You've signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, which is a commitment that most Republicans have signed. Why'd you do it? And how does it help you when you face issues before Congress?
Well, Grover, my complaint was that it was just about not raising taxes. My complaint was that I think Grover Norquist should expand his taxpayer protection pledge to all government. Do not spend more money on government. Our government already has enough money. Yeah. I don't care what people tell me. You got to start making choices. It's that old story about compromise. And then I'll finish the answer. My wife, Jackie, and I, when we got married, Jackie wanted 4 kids. I wanted 3. We compromised. We have 7. All right. It works really good in marriage, but it doesn't work so well in government because when everybody gets everything they want in government, you and me, we get a whole bunch of garbage that we not only don't need, but we can't afford. Yeah. The Taxpayer Protection Pledge is one of those statements of conscience where you're saying, you know what? I'm going to represent the people that put me here. I'm going to protect their pocketbook. I'm going to protect their future and their hard-earned dollars rather than trying to protect the bureaucrats that measure their success by how many people are under me and how big is my budget. That's why I signed it, and that's how I use it.
Well, thank you very much. That's very helpful. Interestingly, almost every Republican has signed it. There are a few who haven't, and no Democrat today. There once were 5 Democrats. They all became Republicans. Congressman Emmer, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for you, Grover. Thanks for the work you do.
We get